We're going to go through some examples that go along with sampling and parameters, section 1.1 in the statistics book. I'll let you read through those definitions at the top. Remember that this page can be found as a PDF in Canvas if you would like to print and follow along. First question, you want to find the average test score of the students in every math class in 11th grade. There are 15 math classes in 11th grade. You survey the scores of 7 math classes and you calculate the average test score is 83%. We're going to identify the population. So the population is the entire group of people that we want to find this information on. So we want to find the average test score of the students in every math class in 11th grade. So our population is all students in every math class in 11th grade. Now we're going to identify the sample. So this is the smaller subset of the population. These are the people that we're actually going to question or get information on. So it said that a survey of 7 math classes is taken, so that's our sample. So the sample is students in those 7 math classes that were surveyed. Next, we're going to talk about the parameter. So the parameter is a numerical characteristic that goes with the entire population. So if we go back, you wanted to find the average test score. That's our parameter. So the parameter is the average test scores of, and then we mention the population. So all math classes in 11th grade. The last item we're going to talk about is the statistic. So this is the actual value that we collect from our sample. So if we go back, we calculated that the average test score is 83%. That information came from those 7 math classes. So our sample is 83% average test score. Okay, I'm going to go through some of these different kinds of sampling techniques. So the first one is convenience. It's convenient for the person taking the sample. So asking like the first 5 people you see at school, asking your friends, asking people in the quad that walk by you, that would be convenience. Systematic has you using a random number generator to pick a starting number, like 5, and then you will find information on every 5th person. So there's usually some kind of randomness in what number you start with, but then after that there is a system in place. So it's every blank number of people or every blank sample. The next one is cluster sampling. So you're going to split the population into groups called clusters. Then you're randomly going to choose 1 or 2 or 3 or however many clusters you want to choose, and then you'll sample everybody in the cluster. So there's again usually some kind of random number generator. Maybe you have 10 clusters, you give them all a number 1 through 10. Use the random number generator to pick 1 or 2 clusters, and you will sample everybody in the cluster. The next one is called stratified. You're also going to split the population into groups. This time they're called strata. The strata will be based on some characteristic. Maybe you want to make sure that you have an even number of males and females in your sample, so you'll split people into either male or female strata. Maybe you're going to go with like location, like everybody in California gets put in one strata and everybody in Oregon gets put in a different one. Everybody in Arizona gets put in a different one. Maybe you're going to have age groups. Some kind of reason for separating the people. Then you want to randomly choose a certain number from each strata. So like the example where you're going to go male, female. Maybe I'm going to randomly pick 5 males and I'm going to randomly pick 5 females. So you're splitting them into groups based on some characteristic, and then you'll randomly pick a few from each strata so that everybody in the population is represented. Okay, for our question, Annie wants to estimate the average number of AP classes a student at her high school takes. She decides to randomly select 6 classes. Classes sounds like groups to me, and use all the students in those 6 classes to estimate the average. So it sounds like she's definitely grouped them based on classes. That would be one of these two because they both involve groups. The fact that she's going to use all the students in those 6 chosen classes, that's where it's going to distinguish between cluster and stratified. So it's definitely a cluster sample. Here's our next one. Sarah wants to inspect the cleanliness of the rooms in a hotel. There are 10 floors in the hotel, and each floor has 20 rooms. From each floor, again, it sounds like there's grouping because it's based on floors. She randomly selects 2 rooms to inspect. So it sounds like she's grouped them by floor. So it's, again, one of these last 2 because they involve groups. And she's selecting 2 from each floor. So that's meaning that each floor is equally represented. And that's going to be a stratified sample. So to obtain useful results, a scientific approach should be followed, and there's the 4 steps. So this semester, we're going to kind of go through all 4 at different points, and we're going to see different ways to collect data, how to decide if things are biased, how to analyze, how to create these reports. So today is just an introduction. Here's a question. A statistics student is doing a project for her class. She wants to make a prediction for the outcome of an upcoming national election. Since there are only 2 candidates, she decides that her question is, which candidate do people favor in the upcoming election? She decides to randomly interview, so we're in the collecting data process, 100 students crossing the courtyard on campus about their preference. And we want to know, is that a good sample for drawing general conclusions about the results of the election or not? Well, if we go back to our sampling techniques, randomly interviewing 100 students crossing the courtyard would probably fall under the convenient sample. And for a convenient sample, that is not a good sample. It has a lot of room for bias. There's people that maybe won't respond to the question, so you're going to leave some people out or have a group that's underrepresented. Depending on the time of day, that might also cause underrepresentation, because if it was 8 o'clock in the morning versus 2 p.m., you might get a different crowd to respond to these questions. So I would say that is not a good sample for drawing general conclusions. I'm going to let you read the definition of observational study and experimental study. The question has, a large manufacturing firm is interested in the effect of the temperature of the manufacturing floor on worker productivity. Over the course of a year, the firm randomly samples 103 sites and records the temperature and the quantity of items produced on that day. And we're going to decide if it's an experiment or an observational study. So because they are recording temperatures, they're not changing the temperature. They're not putting some of the workers in one temperature and others in a different temperature. This is an observational study. They are just observing, recording information. There's no interaction with the workers in this case. A biology student is interested in the relationship between temperature and germination time for soybeans. The student gets sample seeds from multiple sources, randomly selects 180 seeds from them. Then he sets up 3 growing stations, one at 20 degrees Celsius, one at 15, and one at 25. He divides the seeds into 3 groups of 60 and plants the seeds from each group in a growing station. He records the germination time for each seed. Well, the fact that he is cutting it into 3 groups, each group gets their own different temperatures, this is definitely an experiment. So we are going to identify the control factor. Well, the control factor would be the temperature, because that's something that the groups have in that is different. They're controlling the different temperatures, and then they're also comparing the germination to the temperature. So temperature would be the control factor.